On Monday, February 23rd, General Hospital fans are in for some explosive moments as Michael Corinthos delivers a vengeful blow while young Wiley Corinthos drops a confession that could unsettle everyone. Nathan West will also have a sit-down with Maxie Jones, trying to figure out where her head and her heart are now that he's back from the dead and she's finally out of a coma. I think Nathan's going to be wrestling with a lot of questions, and Maxie, well, she may not have all the answers yet. It's the perfect recipe for a soap-style heart-to-heart. Meanwhile, over with Damian Spinelli, he's having a serious talk with Lulu Spencer about a battle he doesn't want to fight. Lulu figured Spinelli would step aside to let Nathan and Maxie reconnect, but Brooke Lynn Quartermain nudged him to let Maxie make her own choice. I feel like Spinelli's going to honor that, but he might also quietly reassure Lulu that he won't block the path if Maxie truly wants Nathan. It's classic Spinelli, loyal but secretly scheming. At Willow Kane's place, Wiley is visibly upset, confessing that he doesn't like it there. To me, it seems like he's not just adjusting to a new living situation, he's definitely unnerved by Drew Kane being nearby. If Wiley asks to go back to Michael, Willow's going to be in a tricky spot. She's clearly committed to rebuilding life with her kids, so expect her to do everything possible to calm him down and get through the night. At the Brown Dog Bar, Jocelyn Jax is on one of her trademark investigative missions. Someone is going to push back against her questions, but she's not one to back down. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up in hot water as a result. Classic Jocelyn chaos. Meanwhile, ADA Justine Turner will warn Dante Falconeri that another misstep could have serious consequences. Things get even more tangled with Michael's key, especially after Rick Lansing reports that an eyewitness saw Harrison Chase handling it. Rick will stop by Alexis Davis to fill her in on the latest developments in Drew's case, so she'll get the full update from the police station. And here's the big moment. Michael, convinced that Chase set him up, storms back to the Quartermain mansion and delivers a massive swing at him. Brooke Lynn Quartermain will watch in horror as her husband takes the hit, and I have a feeling Chase is going to have some very uncomfortable explaining to do. Monday's episode promises fireworks, and I wouldn't be surprised if loyalties are tested all over Port Charles. Friday, February 20th, 2026. Remembering Luke Spencer in Port Charles. I've been thinking a lot about Luke Spencer lately. Even after all these years, his presence still looms large over Port Charles. Today, the city remembers him, and it hits me just how much he changed the lives of everyone who knew him. Earlier this week on General Hospital, Maxie visited Nathan at his grave. Rick uncovered who planted the key, and Willow's patience wore thin when Drew tried to send a message. But for me, it was the quiet, personal moments that really stood out. At home, Lulu stumbled upon a picture of Luke tucked under a bookshelf. Seeing it shook her to her core, and she ran straight to the Quartermain estate, seeking comfort in Tracy. Lulu realized she never really got a chance to grieve her dad, and Tracy felt it too. "You and I are going to honor your dad," Tracy promised, and somehow I think that was exactly what Lulu needed to hear. They first tried the church, sitting quietly in a pew. Lulu recalled how her dad used to joke he'd burst into flames if he walked in there. And in that moment, they both understood it wasn't the place to remember him. On the way out, Tracy blew out a candle, a small gesture of letting go, or maybe of acknowledging his presence in another way. Then came a spark of rebellion. Lulu suggested going to a random casino, and Tracy couldn't help but flash back to the time Luke had tricked her into marrying him while drunk. A mischievous smile crossed her face, and she led Lulu to the Brown Dog, still closed to the public. Tracy paid off the barman, and just like that, the two of them claimed the bar for their own private tribute. They poured drinks, lined the bottles on the bar, and toasted to the memory of a man who never quit, who lived life full throttle even after surviving 3 heart attacks. But the alcohol didn't last. They couldn't handle it, and Tracy remembered the darker side of Luke's past, realizing this probably wasn't the best way to honor him. Meanwhile, life quietly went on. Liz stopped by Laura's office with news that Aiden had finally passed his driver's test. Laura smiled, thinking about how much her son loves cars and realizing he got that fire from Luke. Later, in the quiet of the church, Laura reflected on the past, on naming Lulu with Lucky's help, on the adventurous, unstoppable life she shared with Luke, on the force of nature he had always been. Even now, she can feel him in her children, in the bold choices they make, in her own brave steps forward. Accepting that he's gone still feels wrong, almost like a lie. Because for Laura, Luke never really left. She can hear him calling her angel, and it gives her strength, reminding her that their love didn't end, it transformed. Their hearts are bound beyond time, beyond loss. To me, that's the essence of Luke Spencer. He lives in the laughter, the courage, the recklessness, and the love he left behind, and maybe that's exactly how he wants to be remembered. I think that was the love of a lifetime, she sobs, holding on to a memory that won't fade. Sonny drops by Carly's to grab Donna's lunchbox, and she offers him coffee. His eyes catch a poker chip, one he had found in an old box and given to Donna. It strikes him with a pang of nostalgia, reminding him of Luke. He flashes back to their first encounter, when Luke had ordered him never to come near his family. From that moment, Sonny would have never guessed that, in time, they would become like brothers. Carly muses aloud that her mom thought Luke hung the moon. She, on the other hand, wasn't so sure. Meanwhile, Laura stops by Bobby's for coffee, and the two women share quiet questions about Luke, why he's absent today, and how his presence is still felt. Laura thanks Carly for keeping the cafe going. Carly admits she does it for her mom, and for Luke. Laura's mind drifts back to the moment she asked Luke to marry her. A tear slips down her cheek as a text from Lulu buzzes on her phone. Outside, Carly gazes up at the sky, remembering conversations with Luke about their mutual love for revenge, their little schemes. She reaches into her bag and finds a poker chip tucked away, an echo of their past mischief. At the hospital, Liz smiles at a text, telling a nurse she's taking off early. Sonny wanders into the brown dog, finding Tracy and Lulu still nursing their drinks. Lulu insists he join them. After all, how better to remember Luke than with laughter and whiskey? They share stories of Luke's charm, how he could talk his way out of anything, how he made everyone around him feel alive. Laura joins them, commenting that Luke would feel right at home here. Conversations drift to Luke's unique way of blending love with his card games, and memories of Laura and Luke's wedding surface. Carly arrives after Sonny texts her, curious why he gave her the chip. He insists he didn't, but the sentiment lingers anyway. Liz joins in, wanting to be part of the shared memories. Together, they talk about the ways they grieve, the rituals that honor someone who's larger than life. They all make their way to the pier, placing lanterns on the water. Laura tells Carly that saying goodbye to Luke isn't really goodbye, it's more like, see you later. She smiles through flashes of memories that come unbidden. Once the lanterns float, they raise a toast to Luke with straight whiskey. It feels right. Lulu thanks Tracy, gazing into the mist as Luke's figure appears one last time, smiling and walking away. See you later, Dad, she whispers. Sonny walks off, revisiting his own farewell. Liz returns home, thinking of the brownies she once made for Luke. Laura goes back to her office, catching sight of a card from her secretary meant for Aiden, and her mind drifts again to Luke, remembering the way he always told her she was magnificent. At Bobby's, Carly remembers her arguments with Luke, tempered by his constant reminder that they are family. Tracy sits by her fire sipping tea, thinking of Luke telling her they were the perfect match. She sobs softly, saying she'd do it all again. Lulu places Luke's photo on her mantle, reflecting on how much he loved her. Holding a poker chip, she whispers thanks, not just for the love, but for the luck he shared and the memories that will never fade. Drew is out of commission on General Hospital, and while he hasn't officially resigned from Congress, Mayor Laura is already eyeing a replacement, his ex-mother-in-law, Alexis. Meanwhile, other Port Charles power players are pushing for Willow, Drew's fiancée, to step into his seat. So who's the real frontrunner here? And why is this probably the most realistic soap opera election we've ever seen? Honestly, there's so much that's absurd about this special election that it's almost exhausting to list. This is the same town where Laura became mayor after her grandson rigged the vote. Before that, her ex-mobster husband held office, then casually handed the mayoral seat to the guy who came in second because, well, why not? So at this point, political logic isn't really a requirement in Port Charles. Instead, let's focus on why both Alexis and Willow are terrifyingly, hilariously qualified for politics. Alexis presents herself as a model of virtue. She's already told Laura that she won't compromise her morals if she runs. Her morals, of course, include defending mobsters, stealing money from a baby, covering up her daughter's crimes, kidnapping a man and holding him hostage in her own home, revealing Olivia's son's parentage, and losing her law license, just to name a few. In short, Alexis is a first-class hypocrite. And in politics, hypocrisy is basically a superpower. She'll have no trouble spinning every lie needed to make voters believe she actually cares about them. Then there's Willow. She tried to kill Drew. She's actively keeping him paralyzed with a drug as we speak. She's completely unhinged. But here's the thing that makes her terrifyingly perfect for politics. Willow grew up in a cult. Politics is a cult. Willow instinctively knows how to manipulate people into thinking her agenda is their idea. That's a skill set tailor-made for public office. So, to me, it's hard to choose. Alexis has the experience in lying and bending rules, while Willow has the instinct for psychological manipulation. Either way, Port Charles is in for a fascinating and completely chaotic election. On General Hospital, Drew isn't just trapped in his own body, he's trapped in his own home. Willow drugs him, controls who sees him, and reduces his world to yes or no blinks. That's the cage. When Alexis visited, she interpreted his frantic blinking as distress. Willow insisted it was simply how he communicates. But what if there's more to it? What if Drew isn't panicking at all? What if he's sending a message? Go back to the February 19th episode and watch closely. Drew blinks in a pattern. Short, short, short. Then longer beats. Then short again. It's not random or scattered. It's deliberate. SOS in Morse code is exactly like that. 3 short signals, 3 long, 3 short. A universal distress call, something you memorize if you've trained to operate behind enemy lines. Drew was a Navy SEAL. You don't spend years in that world and forget how to communicate silently. If he's trapped, drugged, and constantly monitored, blinking isn't erratic behavior. It's strategy. He's operating on instinct. When speech and movement are gone, you use whatever remains: eyes, timing, repetition. If he's signaling SOS, it changes everything. Drew isn't a passive victim. He's fully aware and fighting back, quietly, cleverly, waiting for someone sharp enough to notice. The big question: who will catch it? Alexis on a second visit? Scout, because kids often see patterns adults overlook? Or maybe Rick, who thrives on details and suspicion. Whoever decodes it first will blow Willow's meticulous frame-up of Michael wide open. The fallout would be immediate. The PCPD would have to shift tactics and clear Michael. Chase's involvement comes under fresh scrutiny, especially with Wiley's cryptic comment about Chase tampering with his dad's keys. Willow's custody win? It would crumble under the weight of this revelation. Drew's silent signal could turn the entire story upside down, and I can't help but wonder if the audience has really caught it yet. A year ago, I don't think any General Hospital fan would have imagined a world where Maxie Jones and Nathan West were both alive at the same time. Kirsten Storms' Maxie was in a coma for 9 months, and she didn't wake up until after her husband returned from the dead, 6 years after his supposed death. Now, things in Port Charles are about to get a little strange. This week, Maxie's friends and family are throwing her a welcome home party as she returns from Boston, and naturally, all eyes are on her and Nathan. But here's the twist: the old spark that made Maxie so electric? It seems to be missing. It makes me wonder, have Maxie and Nathan really moved on? Or is this subtle hinting that the Nathan walking around Port Charles isn't really her husband at all? General Hospital spoilers suggest Maxie herself starts picking up on the odd vibe. A few encounters with Nathan leave her uneasy, and it doesn't help that he's getting cozy with her best friend, Lulu Spencer. Maxie can't help but think the real Nathan would never behave that way. And honestly, the rumors swirling around town make you think twice. Nathan is the son of Dr. Leels Obrecht and Caesar Faison, Port Charles's original masters of deception. With his father being basically a latex mask kingpin, the idea that this Nathan could be an imposter isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. So the question lingers. Is Maxie just reacting out of jealousy because her old flame is making moves on her BFF? Or is her gut instinct right, and the man standing before her isn't really Nathan West? For me, that tension between love, memory, and suspicion is what makes Port Charles so addictive. Every glance, every hesitation, and every awkward conversation now carries the weight of a mystery that could rewrite the past and the future. Sunny and Luke on General Hospital were never the picture of tidy friendship. They ran cons, built empires, clashed over family, forgave what probably shouldn't have been forgiven, and yet they kept circling back to each other. On screen, it felt like history unfolding. Off-screen, it became something even more profound. Maurice Bernard recently reflected on how Anthony Geary did more than just play Luke. To him, Geary shifted the trajectory of Sunny's life, and, in the process, reshaped Bernard's own legacy on the show. Speaking with Soap Opera Digest, Bernard described their long partnership both in front of and behind the cameras. From day one until the day he left, Tony and I just always had this kind of mutual respect, he said. But that respect went beyond friendship. It was practical. Early in his tenure on the show, Geary pulled Bernard into his dressing room with a question that would change everything. Do you want to stay in Luke's shadow? Listen, do you want to be the Tonto to my Lone Ranger? Sidekicks, he implied, orbit. They don't leave legacies. Bernard took that advice to heart. He went to then executive producer Wendy Reach and asked for more. The result? Sunny gained a father in Mike Corbin and a romance with Brenda. He gained depth. Bernard later admitted that had he stayed a sidekick, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, I may have left. On screen, Luke and Sunny fought, betrayed, protected, and reconciled over and over. But Bernard always saw their dynamic as something deeper than business. They were kind of like brothers, whereas Sunny and Jason are more like uncle and nephew, he explained. That distinction mattered. It guided Sunny's choices after Luke left Port Charles. It explained why he fiercely protected Laura. It shaped the emotional weight of their final dockside scenes in 2015, when Bernard held back tears in moments that weren't even scripted as sentimental. Geary retired and moved to Amsterdam, but their bond endured through memory and influence. When GH airs its tribute, Sunny will grieve Luke, and Bernard will honor Geary. The through line is simple. One actor saw potential in another and nudged him towards something bigger. Everything else followed. I've been thinking about the latest twists on General Hospital, and it really seems like Kai Taylor might end up being the one to save Drew Kane. Willow Kane is stepping up to take over Drew's congressional duties, but I can't help wondering, will her new right-hand man figure out the truth about what she did? Could that truth put his life in danger? Here's what we know. Kai already knows Willow shot Drew. He and Trina Robinson were at Drew's house the night it happened, and they even heard Willow's ringtone for Wiley Corinthos, which confirmed their suspicions. But Kai didn't go to the authorities. Why? Because he and Trina technically broke into Drew's house that night and ran off after the shots, never actually helping him. If the truth came out, they could face serious consequences, so keeping quiet was the safer move. Still, Kai is clearly on high alert when it comes to Willow, especially now that Drew is paralyzed. As Drew's former right-hand man in Congress, Kai is now stepping into the same role under Willow. She has no idea he's onto her, so she's probably thrilled to have him as her intern assistant, thinking he's just loyal and competent. But working so closely with Willow and spending so much time in Drew's house could expose her schemes. Will Kai overhear Willow gloating or taunting Drew? Might he stumble across the medications she's been administering and recognize what they do? Given his football background and past injuries, he might actually understand the implications of what she's doing. Here's the tricky part. Kai is smart, but he doesn't exactly have Willow's cold, calculated manipulation. If he discovers her secret, will he confront her immediately? That could be incredibly dangerous considering what Willow is capable of. And what if Kai ends up in charge of Drew's medication and decides not to administer it? If Willow finds out, could she go after him? Given that the actor playing Kai is recurring, it's plausible the character could be expendable. So, could Kai die while saving Drew? Or will he find a way to protect him while exposing Willow's plans? Whatever happens, it's clear the tension in Port Charles is only escalating, and watching Kai navigate this minefield could be one of the most intense storylines yet. I think General Hospital's Kathleen Gotti is giving us all a masterclass in co-star admiration, and I have to say, it's pretty heartwarming. While her character Liesl might not exactly be a fan of Spinelli, Gotti herself can't stop raving about working with Bradford Anderson. Recently, GH fans watched a scene where Liesl basically told Spinelli that his time with Maxie was over. She didn't just hint at it, she laid it out. It's time for Spinelli to step aside so Maxie can be with her true love, Nathan. And wow, was it one of those awkward but can't look away soap moments. After that scene aired, Gotti took to X to show her love for Anderson. She reshared a fan post featuring the clip and gushed about the scene, calling Liesl messy and giving a shout out to her own craft. I always have a blast working with Bradford Anderson. Both of us often have stylized dialogue and therefore do not riff. We just try to deliver the well-written General Hospital writer's material with all our hearts to entertain you GH fans, she wrote. Honestly, it's hard not to appreciate that kind of dedication to the craft. And let's be real, the scene was juicy, tense, and perfectly awkward. I didn't realize just how much I'd end up feeling for Spinelli while simultaneously wanting to yell at Liesl. That push and pull is exactly why I love GH. Turns out, Gotti gets it too. She reshared another fan post noting that Liesl is wise but also frustrating, and she admitted, "Trust me, I rage at Liesl as well." I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse about cheering for her on screen, but it's comforting to know even the actress struggles with her character sometimes. So yeah, while Liesl might keep Spinelli on his toes, off-screen, Gotti and Anderson clearly have nothing but respect and fun working together. And as a viewer, I can't get enough of it.